Hello,
Mm,
Steve Sem-Sandberg. Welcome in my home office.
thank you.
You have written a really good and exciting book with your novel V, but first we met us with a book of I have to look in my bookshelf avec Therese
Yes, yes,
about
yes.
Meinhof.
Mm,
And then we had also, I have a lot of books of you here.
yes, yeah.
Die Erwählten,
Yeah,
last year,
der Sturm.
Der Sturm. And now you have written a book about Johann Christian Wojciech, who killed Johanna Wust when he was 46 years old in the Sandgasse in Leipzig.
Mm.
It's a novel about the trial, about Wojciech's life, and about the way in which the motives of Asul can be reconstructed then as now. You show us that literature is the best way to do it. However, Wojciech cannot free himself by his own efforts, where the alternatives or the circumstances led him to the scaffold.
Mm. That's true.
That's true.
Yes, that's true. Do you want me to comment on that? No,
Yeah.
no, you're describing actually word by word, point by point, what's happening in my novel. Yes.
Mhm. And yet the question always resonates: when should or could Wojciech have turned or made a different decision?
I don't think he made a decision at all, to be honest. I think the circumstances under which he lived, he was a foot soldier in different armies for almost 20 years, a period during which savage wars happened, took place all over Europe. And he was a mercenary. He was a mercenary soldier. His daily job was to survive and to fight whenever somebody ordered him to fight. And living or reliving the experience of continuous wars for 20 years, that actually makes an imprint on people, that changes people.
Mhm.
And I think when he returned to Leipzig after all these years and he met again with Johanna Wust,
Mhm.
who he had previously met when he was a very young man, and fell in love with the way that very young people, of course, fall in love with women. And she was actually older than him, but he was young then. She was young then, and married. But he fell in love with her. And when he came back to Leipzig, they restarted some sort of relation. But I think that Wojciech all the time kept his memories of her inside him, and actually idealizing her to some degree. And when she didn't live up to his expectations, of course, he by seeing other men, of course, and doing different things than being with him, he got very angry and upset. And since he did not have the possibility or the ability, I would rather say, to communicate with people the way people like you and me are communicating,
Mhm.
he was completely like blind and deaf by the experience of the war. He couldn't handle all these feelings.
Mhm. In this way,
So that is my interpretation, at least, of why he reacted the way he did.
Mhm. In his life, in his biography, never a real door was opened to any changement of his life.
No, and it was also, which I believe Hans Meyer would have pointed out, that it was also impossible for a man from his class. You know, he was born poor. He was not educated. He had not any connections, and he could not climb the ladder that could make him a professional or coming a little bit higher up on the social scale. He was doomed to be what he was and doing what he did.
Mhm.
As you say, all the doors were closed to him.
Mhm. Your novel remember me a bit un morceau dans la novel d'Albert Camus,
Yes, of
L'étranger,
course. Yes.
whose biography contributes to let him also to the scaffold.
Yes.
But as also indicated by Hans Meyer on his book of Büchner, the period of the case of Wojciech is a transitional period, and one does not yet have all the means to tie up all the ends to reconstruct the motive for the reason of this death.
Yes, that's true. And I think that well, you can look at it from the other side. I mean, the reason why Wojciech, the case of Wojciech, has been so figuring so prominently in not only in the play of Büchner, but also at the time, because there was this, you know, there was this trial, but it was also this pre-trial hearing, the examination of the Dr. Claros, who actually tried to examine with quotes Wojciech to see if he was mentally fit, or he was mentally disturbed. And I believe that this is the very, very first time that, or one of the cases very early that people took so much care to try to figure out if a murderer like Wojciech was sane or not. Previously, they had just, I mean, committed him to the death sentence, and he would have been executed, and that would have been all. But now he's examined from every angle, and the questions put to him, and Dr. Claros even knocks on his head like with a knuckle like this to examine where are the voices? Are they over here or are they over there? And so this drags out for a period of maybe 3 or 4 years, so almost 3 years at least. And in the final end, Dr. Claros comes to the conclusion that he is sane. But why does he come to this conclusion? Because deep inside himself, he knows that Wojciech has committed this crime in a state of mind that is not clear, that is obscure, that is not sane. But the society around him, his colleagues in the medical college, and also, they want him to be severe and precise and do what is expected of him. So although he has his doubts, he says in his final conclusion that Wojciech was in his full sense of mind at the time. But you can see, if you read my book, you will see there is a lingering doubt, also from Claros' side. He becomes aggressive, like people do when they are unsure of themselves. He starts to speak to and about Wojciech as if he has really come to the conclusion, but he wants to make it certain for himself. So he calls him a beast, a murderous beast. You're not fit to be a human. You are degraded. You are not one of God's people. You're not enlightened by God, and etc. etc. Why is he saying all these things to Wojciech? Because in his heart he knows that he is not. He is innocent.
In a certain way, Claros is also a prisoner of his time.
Exactly.
You show us how the prisoner feels in prison after the crime. And I quote, and for the first time since they brought him there, he feels something of the old anger rising in him, of the shame of the always overreached, who is never allowed to speak for himself. He never gets a pen and paper to justify himself, isn't it so?
Yeah. I believe he got a pen and paper, but he was not able to write to defend himself. He never actually he never denied that he had murdered Johanna Wolf, and he never said that he was innocent in any way. But the thing he does is to be very precise and clear in his answers. I mean, it's Claros who is confused, but Wojciech is never confused. If you read the transcript of the interaction between the medical doctor and the accused, you can see that Claros' questions are very obscure.
Mhm.
very uncertain, wavery in this way. But Wojciech always answers matter-of-factly.
Yes.
If you get a precise question, he says what he has done. And if Klaus asks him what he hears, he will tell him what he hears.
Mhm.
So in interpreting Wojciech's answers, there will be no obscurity at all. Everything will be clear. But and that is, of course, the perfect defense. I mean, he makes a very strong defense himself of what he has done. He's not denying his crime, but he's saying this and this and this and this and this happened in my life. And it's up now to the reader who reads my novel to decide who is the right, who has the right on his side. And I think there will be not any doubt that the one who is actually, as you said very precisely, locked up in his own time is Clarus. So you can draw the conclusions you want from that.
Yeah, you have already spoken about the panic attacks. For example, when they try to get at him, or when he has to undress in front of everyone during the examination. If you know these stories, the qualities that people are capable of, then a few things become clear. You write, time has no hold on him at all. Restless man.
I think that is true. I think, I've studied the material, and of course, I'm not overloaded with material this time when I work. There are small fields of knowledge that you can access, but there are not so many people who actually talk about seeing him live or meeting him personally and so on. But the impression I get from the character of Wojciech is that he is a split personality, very much so. And there is one side of him which is committed to the most heinous violence. I mean, he can commit crimes without reflecting or thinking about what he is doing. But there's also another side of him, which I think that Georg Büchner actually picks up very nicely in his play, where he is shown to be quite a delicate human person, very sensitive, very emotionally alert, and he has feelings that reminds me, at least, of the kind of feelings that a child has. He needs tenderness, and that's what he seeks with being together with Johanna Wus. He seeks some sort of female tenderness and some sort of love that can redeem him in some way. But since he's incapable of communicating with other people, he just stands there and stares with this stupid eyes. He cannot commit, he cannot convey his feelings, and he's unable to commit himself deeply to any relation. So what do? There will be an abyss, Abgrund, between himself and the world, between himself and Johanna Wust, and he has to reach out with his hands, literally, to get a grip on reality. That's what I meant by saying that time just flows past him. He has to reach out to get a grip on reality, and he also reaches out and gets a grip on Johanna, to keep her there, to have her for himself. But since he has no other way of communicating, she, of course, and all the other people, takes this to be an act of violence. So he is misunderstood the same way as a child would be. And I think the combination between this very childish personality, or this very childlike way he has, but extremely emotionally intelligent, I believe, and the harshness, the violence, and the blunt aggression with which he meets with other people, or interacts with other people. I think this abyss, this split in his personality, extremely interesting.
But you tell us two other stories in the book. One with a young doctor, which is large wardrobe, travels, bands, and another story where you see that he is able for real emotions also in love. That's the daughter Louise of the
Yes.
Kammerrathkönigin Barneck with her beautiful eyes, and he
Mm.
is rejected
Mm.
and makes these two stories confirm what you are saying about him. Is
Exactly,
it so?
exactly. This is actually the point I was trying to make. I mean, when he makes this beautiful bird, he takes a whole year to make it. You know, with it should be with live feathers. You know, and the body of the bird is. I mean, he's doing this with to perfect it and to paint it in real colors and so. And this is an extraordinary gift that he brings to this Louise. But of course, during all this time, people have been looking into through his windows, and he's seen that he's doing this. And they're of course curious what will happen to the bird, with the bird. And then he brings it out, and everybody in the whole village are standing around and staring. And he knocks on her door, and of course she will not accept this gift because he's being ludicrous. He's being an idiot, you know. And of course, he reacts with violence. So
You have already told us that he becomes a soldier and joins the Dutch army. Later, he meets Mary Thiessen. She becomes pregnant. It's a boy, but he is not accepted by her. He has to move on. You have to go, Wutzig. Always, he is rejected.
yes, there is some doubt if this child is his real child or not. I believe it didn't. It wasn't. But she probably had it with somebody else. But he was again. He wanted so much to be with somebody. He wanted so much not to be rejected. So he imposed himself the role of a father. You know, a protecting father.
That's one of the doors who was closed for him.
Yes, exactly. So he was kicked out because he was only a soldier. She wanted to have a rich man. So this kind of pattern repeats itself through the whole book, that he reaches out, but he is rejected. He wants to take another road, but this road is blocked, and so on. So.
And again, the case against him is described. Clarus bends over the case, and Wojciech reports, "I have only fallen deeper and deeper into ruin." He is very conscious about his case.
Exactly, he is. And as can be the case with very many people who are ill, really psychologically ill, they also are acutely aware of their illness or their state of mind and their decrepitude.
After the verdict, there's a postponement, a new expert opinion from the same expert. A quote: "It was never my intention to kill her," says he. "It was an accident, an unfortunate coincidence." He tells the court consigliere, that's remember me also when Meursault says it was the sun. It's quite honestly and does not add the shot in panic and self-defense, isn't it so?
Yes, exactly. Yes, in Camus' book, it's the sun. Yes, everything is blamed on the sun. Yes, and there is also a scene in my book where the sun stops in the middle of the sky, and he's Wojciech is completely blinded by the light. But that is, of course, a metaphorical way to put it. I mean, he feels himself that he was acting in self-defense, and he feels that some light has made him a little bit confused, but of course he is very much aware of what he has done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your book, W,
yeah,
has been translated by Gisela Kozubek and published by Klett-Cotta in Germany. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heiner.